They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but they're wrong. True revenge isn't a dish at all. It's a garden. You plant the seeds in silence, you water them with patience, and you wait years, sometimes decades, to watch the roots tear down the foundation of the person who wronged you. I never wanted to be a vengeful person. I was a quiet woman, a rule follower. For 40 years, I bowed my head and survived in the shadow of my mother, a wealthy, ruthless New York socialite who believed love was a transaction and kindness was a weakness. I endured her toxic control because I thought it was the only way to keep the peace. But then she came for my daughter. On my daughter Lily's 18th birthday, my mother didn't just break her heart. She stood in front of 300 of the most elite people in our city and deliberately, methodically, tried to destroy Lily's spirit. She wanted to teach us both a lesson about power. Instead, she started a timer on her own destruction. If you have toxic family members, if you've ever had to watch someone you love get torn down by the very people who were supposed to protect them, you'll want to hear this. Because my revenge didn't involve screaming matches. It didn't involve violence. It was entirely legal. It was completely silent. And it lasted a lifetime. To understand the magnitude of what my mother did, you have to understand who she was. Eleanor Vance was old money. She lived in a sprawling, historic estate in the Hamptons. She controlled the family trust, which meant she controlled the family. Growing up, I was nothing but an accessory to her. I married a kind, hard-working man, a high school teacher, which disgusted my mother. When my husband passed away suddenly when Lily was just 10, my mother swooped in, not to comfort us, but to take control. Lily was my entire world. She was brilliant, compassionate, and wildly creative. While my mother wanted a ruthless corporate lawyer to inherit her empire, Lily wanted to design sustainable housing for low-income communities. She was an artist, an architect at heart. My mother hated this. She called Lily's dreams peasant fantasies. For years, she subtly chipped away at Lily's confidence, threatening to cut us off from the family trust if Lily didn't fall in line. But I made sure Lily knew she was loved. I buffered the blows. Until the 18th birthday party. It was supposed to be a milestone. My mother insisted on hosting it at the country club. I knew it was a PR stunt for her friends, but Lily, sweet as ever, was genuinely excited. She thought, for once, her grandmother was proud of her. Lily wore a beautiful, simple blue dress. She looked like an absolute angel. The ballroom was packed with CEOs, politicians, and local socialites. Then, it was time for the speeches. My mother walked to the microphone. The room fell dead silent. She smiled that chilling practice smile. She started by talking about the legacy of the Vance family, about excellence, about prestige. And then, she turned to Lily. Today, my granddaughter becomes an adult, she said into the microphone, her voice echoing off the marble walls. Adulthood means abandoning childish fantasies and facing reality. Lily has insisted on pursuing a meaningless, unprofitable art degree, squandering her potential. I froze. People in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. Lily's smile faltered. I had planned to gift her the keys to her own estate today, along with her multi-million-dollar trust fund. My mother continued, pulling a velvet box from her pocket. But I do not reward mediocrity. I do not fund failures. She opened the box. Inside wasn't a key. It was a single, cheap, plastic coin. This is exactly what your chosen career will earn you, Lily, she said, staring her teenage granddaughter dead in the eye. Nothing. You are officially cut out of the Vance family trust. Let this be a lesson to you. Happy birthday. 300 people stared. Lily burst into tears and ran out of the ballroom. I didn't scream at my mother. I didn't flip tables. I simply walked up to the podium, grabbed the microphone, and said to the crowd, "Enjoy the champagne. It's the last bitter drop you'll ever get from this family." I walked out, found my sobbing daughter in the parking lot, held her in my arms, and made a silent vow. My mother wanted to play a game of legacy and wealth. Fine, I would play, but I would play for keeps. The next morning, Lily and I packed our bags and moved out of the guest house on my mother's estate. We cut all personal contact, but financially, I stayed entirely embedded in the family business. You see, my mother was a brilliant socialite, but she was terrible at modern business. For the last 10 years, I had been the silent operations manager of her real estate portfolio. She thought I was just her glorified secretary. She didn't realize I held the keys to the kingdom. I went to work, quietly, methodically. Over the next decade, while my mother spent her days throwing lavish parties and pretending we didn't exist, I started legally restructuring her assets. Every time a lease came up for renewal on one of her commercial properties, I made sure the new contracts favored the management company, a company I had secretly set up, entirely in Lily's name. And Lily, oh, Lily flourished. Released from the toxic weight of her grandmother's expectations, she soared. She got scholarships, she worked 3 jobs, she graduated at the top of her class in architecture. By the time she was 25, she had started her own firm, specializing in eco-friendly urban development. By 28, she was a millionaire in her own right. By 30, she was on the cover of Forbes. She did it all without a single penny of Vance family money. Meanwhile, my mother's world was crumbling. Her lavish lifestyle was catching up to her. The stock market took a hit, and her outdated investments tanked. She was hemorrhaging money. To keep up appearances, she started taking out massive loans against the family estate. She never once checked the fine print of who she was borrowing from. 15 years after that horrific 18th birthday party, the final domino fell. My mother, now 82, was completely bankrupt. The banks called in her debts, and when she couldn't pay, the historic Vance estate, the home she prized above all human life, the symbol of her entire identity, went up for foreclosure. She was desperate. She finally swallowed her pride and called me. She begged me to find a buyer who would let her live out her final days in the mansion. I told her I had found a private investor willing to buy the debt and the deed. The closing was to take place at the estate. When the day came, I walked into the grand foyer of the estate. My mother sat in a velvet chair, looking frail, clutching her pearls. "Where is the investor?" she snapped. "Did you bring the paperwork?" I stepped aside, and through the front door walked Lily. She was 33 years old now, confident, radiant, wearing a sharp, tailored suit that cost more than my mother's entire remaining bank account. My mother scoffed. "What is she doing here? Did she come to gloat?" Lily didn't say a word. She just walked over to the mahogany table, pulled out a pen, and signed the final page of the deed. I looked at my mother and said, "Mother, meet your private investor, the owner of the management company that holds all your debts, the sole proprietor of this estate." My mother went pale. The realization hit her like a freight train. Every loan she had taken, every piece of her crumbling empire, she had sold off to survive. She had unknowingly sold it to the granddaughter she had humiliated. Lily closed the folder. She looked down at the woman who had handed her a plastic coin 15 years ago. "You told me I would earn nothing, grandmother," Lily said, her voice perfectly calm. "You told me you didn't fund failures. You were right. So, I bought your failures instead." My mother wasn't thrown out on the street. We aren't monsters. Lily allowed her to live in the small guest house on the edge of the property, the exact same guest house she had forced us into decades ago. But the main house, the country club memberships, the legacy, it all belongs to the girl with the meaningless art degree. Lily transformed the sprawling estate into the headquarters for her non-profit, housing brilliant young architects who design affordable homes for the homeless. My mother has to look out her window every single day and watch her precious, elite legacy be used to help the exact people she spent her life looking down upon. Revenge isn't about screaming. It isn't about matching someone's cruelty. True revenge is success. True revenge is taking the stones someone throws at you and using them to build an empire they eventually have to beg to live in. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever survived a toxic family member and built your own success, leave a comment below. I'd love to read your victories. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories. Remember, your best revenge is simply a life well lived.